Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Israel Brief with me, Rolene Marks, where we take a look at those top stories making headlines every Monday to Thursday. And we do it in partnership with these guys, Lay of the Land. So guys, thank you for joining me as I went into Gaza yesterday. Yes, believe it or not, journalists going into the Gaza Strip. We went into Gaza and we were taken to the aid collection depot, and from there I showed you just a snapshot of the vast amounts of humanitarian aid. This is excluding the trucks that were standing idle with their drivers in them, waiting for the go-ahead from the United Nations and others to distribute the aid to needy Gazans. So before we get on to all of that, I just want to remind you all that today is a very important day. Yes, it is day 671 since the 7th of October, but it is also exactly 22 months to the day, and we still have 50 hostages being held captive in the Gaza Strip. We saw over the weekend the horrendous conditions that they are being held in, and that they are starved to within an inch of their life. You can see the skeletons on the two hostages that Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad featured in those propaganda videos. We are very, very worried about their condition, about their safety. It is believed by the medical authorities here that they have lost about 50% of their body weight, and every second counts. So we are asking you all to be their voices out there. The world has forgotten about it. The world is sucking up all the narrative around Israel's military offensive against Hamas and forgetting why this war started, how this war started, and who is being held captive still. If those hostages are returned to us, all 50 of them, without exception, the war ends today. So this is what we need you to help us tell the world, because the world has gone, pardon my language, absolutely batshit crazy over this, and all logic, all rationale, and all facts seems to have left the building. So let's get into those top stories, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about yesterday, about the aid, what I saw there yesterday, and then a little bit later we're going to get to your audience question, as well as the mensches and the morons of the week. So let's start with my visit to the Gaza Strip yesterday, and if you missed it, please catch it on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel at the Israel Brief. Now guys, I know the sound was low, but understand I was out inside basically a war zone. You work with what you have in the limited time that you have it. So I know one or two people complained the sound was a bit low, but guys, all I can really do is apologize and say put the volume higher. So I went in yesterday, a small group of journalists from around the world, including two utter dingbats from the ABC in Australia. I will elaborate on them a little later. We were taken into the aid distribution depot. So basically what happens is the aid that comes in from Jordan, from around the world, goes to various terrestrial crossings. This one happened to be Kerem Shalom. There's a terrestrial crossing at Zikim, and there are various others. This was in the south of the Gaza Strip. That aid is then inspected by the IDF just in case anybody is smuggling in parts or weapons or something that can be used by Hamas in a military offensive against Israel. Once those goods are cleared, they come to this depot inside the Gaza Strip where they are offloaded, and then trucks belonging to the United Nations, World Food Programme, UNICEF and various other aid agencies will come and collect that aid and then take it to civilians in the Gaza Strip. Now, you can't just go in. This is very carefully controlled because you are going into a hot zone, a hot war zone. But what I saw yesterday, and I've shared some photos, some stills on our Facebook page, was thousands of pallets of humanitarian aid. Everything from hygiene kits for children to medications to fresh vegetables like onions, potatoes sitting in the heat, cooking oil, flour, tuna, tomato sauce, sanitary products for women, baby formula, you name it. It was all sitting there in pallets and pallets and pallets, boxes and boxes and boxes piled high. What you didn't get on camera was that there were loads of trucks. Now, these are the trucks that collect the aid and take them into the Gaza Strip. This is now out of the hands of the IDF. The trucks were sitting idle with their drivers still in them. And the trucks actually have like caging around where the driver sits and the front window, because as you can imagine, it's very dangerous for these drivers, who somebody actually commented yesterday, all happen to be members of the Hamas trucking union, and that is how Hamas know exactly when and where the aid is coming in, and they loot the aid. I also noticed some UN vehicles parked there. So what they are doing, I don't know. But what struck me is the absolute wastage that was sitting there, completely neglected by these aid agencies, while the world screams at Israel for not doing more. Could Israel be doing more? Absolutely. What we could be doing more, I don't know. Nobody seems to have solutions. We know that the IDF and the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation have offered either to distribute the aid in the case of the GHF, or as the IDF said, we will secure those convoys. We will make sure they go in safely, and the UN has said no. Effectively, the United Nations is politicizing humanitarian aid. They are politicizing much needed food that needs to get into the heart of Gaza. Now, earlier today, Cindy McCain, who is the head of the World Food Program, tweeted out that 50,000 people are starving because there is no aid. Cindy, I stood next to boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of your aid marked World Food Program. There is a picture of it. It is up on my personal Facebook page that shows some of the UN boxes and some of the World Food Program boxes. Where are your drivers? It's sitting there waiting for your drivers to come and distribute. Something has gone fundamentally wrong. The GHF, as of yesterday, had handed out over 108 million meals. Now, they brought in a journalist from Fox News who said that he sees men, women, children, the elderly, and they look healthy. They don't look like they are starving. Yesterday, we had another expose, this time by Bild, probably the most read German newspaper, exposing how that infamous picture that you guys all know of the children, they look squashed up against a fence, all carrying empty pots, they look like they're crying, how that has been staged by journalists who are either members of Hamas or sympathetic to Hamas. In fact, there is footage of those children in a car with this journalist laughing and rehearsing how they are going to act out being hungry and starving. Little by little by little, the truth is starting to out. Unfortunately, the vast majority of the world have eaten up this narrative that Israel is committing genocide and Israel is committing mass starvation. And guys, I'm asking you to do the work. I've given you COGAT's details. I've given you the UN operations, project services, dashboard. You guys know where to go for the GHF. Please share that information with as many people as you can, because you deserve the truth, and we deserve much better than being accused of genocide and starvation. The European Union has said that Israel has significantly improved. Of course, they've said there's room for more improvement, but again, guys, what do you suggest? We appreciate the humanitarian aid drops, which incidentally Hamas have called for an end to, because they can't control that. They can't control those aid drops. So as you can see, there is a pattern here. When aid goes out successfully, it is because Hamas is unable to control the civilian population using humanitarian aid as a weapon. So guys, really, please share my broadcast from yesterday. Let's get the facts that you saw with your own eyes out to as many people as possible. Now, a few days ago, I brought you the story that the Israeli Security Cabinet is going to vote on whether or not to occupy Gaza. Now, the vote did go through, and we have a few details about what the plan is. Now, it's important to know that there are a lot of clashes around this. The majority of the Israeli public don't want it. There are divisions in the government about whether or not this is a good idea. And the IDF chief and the Prime Minister have clashed on this. It is very important to note that this does not mean Israelis are going to go settle in Gaza. This is absolutely not going to happen. But I will read to you what we know. So apparently, and this is according to Israel's Channel 12, this will be for about 4 to 5 months. The plan is currently occupation, but it is not immediate nor of the entire Gaza Strip. The plan focuses on the first phase, which is the symbol of the Gaza Strip, Gaza City. In the first phase, Israel will issue evacuation notices to Gaza City's residents. Currently, half of the Strip's population is believed to be there, between 900,000 and 1 million. So why is it an advance notice? To prepare infrastructure in central Gaza, hospitals and camps, etc., to absorb evacuees. This could take a few weeks, during which Israel won't initiate combat, not only to allow the infrastructure to be built, but also in light of Israel's international standing. So we're very aware of what the international community are thinking now. It is also expected that Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad will try and move hostages. So what I am thinking is the army is moving in, because I believe that's where hostages are, in the hope of getting to those hostages. We are also hoping that the US will announce a large amount of funding for new aid centers in the areas that are occupied, and that there will be some kind of attempt to reach an agreement or compromise. This is very, very, very important, because none of us want this war to continue. The vast majority of the Israeli public want this war to end. We just want our hostages back. We know that we can't have Hamas on our doorstep, and that of course we will deal with, but right now the main imperative is to get our hostages. What is also interesting is that a BBC, believe it or not, investigation into how Hamas has kept up its funding during the Gaza war has revealed that they have a secret war chest funded by the looting of humanitarian aid. So now you've even got the BBC admitting that Hamas were looting the aid, selling it or taxing it at exorbitant prices, and refunding their war chest. So guys, this is all coming to light. Let's make sure we share it. Now today, hostage families, because it is 22 months, embarked on a flotilla called Shayetet 50. Shayetet is the Hebrew word for flotilla, with the aim of getting as close to the maritime border as possible. The Hostage Family Forum said that this was to get as close to their loved ones as possible, that they're trying everything from land, sea and air to try and get the message somehow to their loved ones held captive, that their families are doing absolutely everything in their power and won't stop till they come home. They're also impressed upon the government to do everything in its power to make the freedom or the release of the hostages its absolute imperative. And finally, 200 victims of Hamas and Hezbollah have filed a class action lawsuit against UNRWA. This is the United Nations Relief Works Agency, in a federal court in the United States. They say that UNRWA has incited hate, encouraged hate, praised hate, and has also been involved in acts carried out against Israeli civilians and other victims, that UNRWA had operatives working in cooperation with Hezbollah and Hamas. And we know from accounts from the 7th of October, we know Jonathan Samarano, who was killed and whose body was taken captive and has now been returned by our forces and laid to rest. His body was taken by an UNRWA worker. We know several victims from Kibbutz Cholit were killed by an UNRWA worker, and various others. And they say that they carried out these attacks in coordination with Hamas and Hezbollah, and that this goes back as far as 2015. So those are your top stories. Let's get to the audience question. It comes from Linda, who says, has the Red Cross done anything yet to bring food and medicine to the hostages? Excellent and very pertinent question, because this is what we've been expecting and demanding of the Red Cross this week, following the horrific videos of Eviatar David and Ram Braslavsky. Now, the Red Cross have said they can't do anything because they're waiting for Israel to open the humanitarian entrances, which are open. They are open, and for Hamas to give them permission. Now, remember the other day Hamas said that they would cooperate. Well, they haven't. Big surprise there. So the short answer to that is no. The Red Cross have done absolutely nothing. And then finally, let's take a look at your menschers and your morons, and we'll start with the menschers. So there is a big list of menschers this week. The first is Idan Amedi. Idan is a well-known actor and singer here in Israel. You will know him from his role in Fauda. I can't remember which character he is, but he took on a group of Israeli artists who were alleging war crimes and calling for the war to end. And he said, I have fought in this war. I have been into homes in Gaza. Every home has a tunnel or a booby trap or a copy of Mein Kampf or hate-filled material. He says, our soldiers are warriors. They are shields against terror. You've never served, so basically shut up. And it actually resulted in a few of those artists taking their names off the list and reversing their statement. To Bild for their brilliant expose, exposing how Hamas are staging these photo opportunities of starving Gazans to push that narrative. Erin Marlin, the fabulous Erin, we're going to go for a cocktail, Erin, and her 3 lionesses, who in Sydney, Australia this past weekend stood in a silent vigil with signs that had pictures of Eviatar and Ram, and a big sign that said Hamas is the enemy of all humanity, in the face of 90,000 chanting things like death to the IDF, death to Netanyahu and globalize the Intifada, and flying Palestinian and terror organization flags, as well as images of the Ayatollah. Notably missing from that were any Australian flags. The IDF for keeping me safe yesterday. You guys are the absolute best of us, and the Special Forces guy who helped me get my Kevlar off because it was just too damn heavy. Listen guys, you have no idea. Some of you said it looked like pretty cool. You have no idea. First of all, it's very heavy, and second of all, the helmet gives you a serious case of helmet hair. Just say. The Hostage Families Forum, our hostage families, what they are experiencing is absolutely unprecedented. Their strength, their resolve, their tenacity. There are not enough words to describe how much we love them and we stand with them. And the New York Post, for putting Eviatar on their front page, where so many newspapers around the world either didn't or reduced our hostages to a throwaway byline somewhere. New York Post, you are a beacon of moral clarity in a dark world that has lost its moral clarity. God bless you and thank you. And now for your morons. Basically, every single newspaper media outlet that either refused, did not, and spun the narrative to focus on the so-called famine in Gaza or so-called genocide, while completely ignoring the plight of our starving and tortured hostages. Shame on you. You have got no moral compass. You are a stain on humanity, and you bring great shame to our noble profession. So guys, that's it from me for today. I'm going to go try fix my hair and stay cool. But in the meantime, don't forget to follow our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our YouTube channel is at the Israel Brief. Click that like button below. We're on Facebook at Lottel's site. There's a whole lot of still photos up there from my visit into Gaza yesterday. We're on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks, on Instagram at Rolene_Marks, on X at Love the Land 5. Guys, have a wonderful weekend. Israelis, we're in for a massive heat wave. Stay cool out there. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom, and I'll see you again on Monday. Bye for now.